Welcome to the acrepro.com buy sell edition. Usually going to be a Tuesday night feature on goldenblack.com as Tom Dienhart, our resident expert on Purdue football, will break down some of the things from a buy sell standpoint, kind of what's hot, what's not with the Boilermakers after the Purdue's 35-31 loss to Penn State, looking ahead to Indiana State this week. We want to thank our sponsor, and when it comes to land sales, it pays to have experts in your corner. Acre Pro, Midwest Farm Group, Kyle Spray and Company are your local farmland specialists. With decades of experience in Indiana agriculture, no one knows the market better. Whether you're doing a 1031 exchange, Tom, I'm still asking to see if you're working on yours.
Yep.
Buying and selling farmland, your local Acre Pro agent will walk the land with you and ensure the deal is done right. Visit acrepro.com or call 765-587-3185 and talk to your local land expert today. And I missed a number last week it is 765-587-3185. All right, Tom, obviously a few days removed. Heck, it's 5 days removed. Hard to believe since Purdue and Penn State hooked it up. Had a chance to rewatch the game. I know you already have watched parts of it again this morning, just kind of out of on the BTN's quick 60-minute review of games. You know, interesting game to say the least. And now looking back at Charlie Jones, one of the best stories. Thought your numbers, you've been brilliant on your guys that were picked to click. Charlie Jones, Scotty Humpick, others that have made a difference or made a difference in week one. You've been talking about it for a while, but Charlie Jones, 12 receptions, one of the best performances, I think, by a first game Purdue receiver in quite a while. But is he their go-to guy, and is he a guy that you're going to buy throughout the rest of the season just based on what you saw in week one?
Yeah, and until I have reason to believe otherwise. I mean, why not put your chips with Charlie Jones, Alan? I mean, what a debut. The 153 yards was the most ever by a Purdue player in their debut. That was in the notes this week. So 12 catches, 1 touchdown. He was targeted 19 times. I'm not sure if David Bell was ever targeted 19 times in a game. So obviously him and Aiden O'Connell have that chemistry from their childhood. Aiden felt comfortable going to Charlie a lot. It proved to be a beneficial combination. But yeah, without a doubt, he's got to be your at least current number one wide receiver. Of course, a role Purdue desperately needed to fill with David Bell and Milton Wright gone. Now I think the question becomes, who's going to surround Charlie Jones and really be that complimentary receiver or complementary receivers? If you're buying other receivers, Alan, Mershawn Rice would be a guy I think you should definitely look at. Had a nice debut, 3 catches. He's a guy who's sort of had a star-crossed career just because of injuries. He's been here now. This is his 4th season, if you can believe it. But he's always been nagged again with injury, and almost kept him off the field Thursday night. He had a hamstring issue in camp. He did get on the field, though, and he did play well. So Mershawn Rice is a guy that they certainly would like to have step up here, Alan, too.
Yeah, Jones was also the 5th most receiving yards by any player in the season's opening week. Are huge numbers for him, but I liked what I saw from Mershawn Rice. We've talked about that receiving core. Not that David Bell was a huge physical presence, but he played like he was. But I like Rice's size, just the way he looks the part. If he can just stay healthy, I'm with you on that. I think that's going to be. And Charlie Jones, you've talked a couple of times and asked Jeff Brom on Monday about that, and I thought it was interesting that Brom admitted a little bit that maybe Jones got tired out. We don't know that, but also the fact on punt returns, because we're all eager to see if he could make somebody miss and maybe get a long return in there sometime this season.
Yeah, that's what came up. Like everybody, you read so much about Charlie Jones and his acumen as a return man. Of course, his resume speaks for itself. The 2021 Big Ten Return Man of the Year. What a weapon he could be running back punts and kickoffs. So we get to game 1 of the season, Alan. I'm all excited, right? Charlie Jones has 1 punt return for no yards, and he had, I think it was 3 kickoff returns for about 34 yards. I don't know my stats with me, but
I think that's right. Yeah.
8 punts. Penn State punted 8 times. he fair caught it 5 times. They downed it once, I know, at the 3-yard line. And another time they had a touchback, and then he had the one return for no yards as a punt return. And I asked Charlie after the game Thursday night, hey, who are you told whether to return punts or not? How's the protocol work? How's it work back there with you? And he said, hey man, he can run back any punt he wants. And I went back to Jeff Brom this week and asked him, and Jeff Brom said the same thing. It's up to Charlie. And that's where he made the comment about maybe Charlie being a little gassed, just because of the workload he had catching balls in the offense. So that was an interesting comment. But again, I guess Charlie will get there. Maybe I just have to be patient, Alan. I want everything right now. But
patience isn't a strength of any of us, I don't think.
Yeah, again, Charlie Jones. I mean, that's the next page, right? We saw the receiving skills, and that's really why he came to Purdue. That's been said a couple different times. Obviously, he knows Aiden O'Connell. That helped ease the transition or make the decision for him. But the fact he could play with Aiden O'Connell, a kid he knows, and also playing this offense where Allen has a chance to showcase his skill set as a wide receiver like he never has before in his career.
Yeah.
So he's got pro football in his eyeballs, I think. He thought coming here would obviously augment and accentuate his resume in the eyes of those pro scouts.
All right, now you zing me every week on good trivia questions. It was the second most receiving yards by a Purdue receiver in an opening game since 2006. Now give me a guess who that was. It beat him by 1 yard.
Was it Rondell?
No, 2006.
It was back in 2006.
A Fleet guy that committed to Boston College early.
Oh, yeah, Dorian Bryant. Sure,
Dorian Bryant beat him by 1 yard, 154 yards in that 2006 season opener. And I'm not trying to even remember who. Oh, was that Eastern Illinois? No, it wasn't Eastern Illinois. I'm trying to think of who their season opener was in 6. But anyway, big time performance by Charlie Jones without question. A lot of fun to watch. You have to love the kid's work ethic too. He just comes to play, and that seems to be that way more than anything. And that's a lot of fun to watch, to say the least. All right, Purdue's run game. We're going to buy or sell it. I personally thought, maybe I've got my being hopeful. I thought that King DeRue, and as you had written about many times, it looked slimmed down, but also a little bit more elusive. I know he didn't run a lot, but and I know this week's game is going to be tough to determine. Purdue probably will run for 140, 150 yards just because of the opponent. But how do you see the Purdue run game and way that Purdue handled it down the stretch? If you were the OC with 6 minutes to go in the game, would you run it more, or would you have sold that run game and done exactly what Purdue tried to do?
Yeah, obviously, in that situation, when you have a 31-28 lead, you have the ball with about 6.5 minutes to go in the game. You'd like to be able to work the clock and burn some time off of it with that rushing attack. And up until that point, Alan, the first 3 quarters, the Purdue ground game was pretty solid. But again, that fourth quarter, especially in the 2 drives, when again they had the ball in the lead with a chance to milk the clock, or maybe, Alan, even add points to their lead, they were unable to do it. There were 12 total plays ran over those 2 drives. 11 of those were passes. The 1 run went for 4 yards. If you look at the total fourth quarter, Alan, as far as rushing goes, 5 total attempts for -9 yards, and that includes 2 sacks of Aiden O'Connell. And O'Connell wasn't that sharp that quarter either, Alan, as a passer. He was only 7 of 20 for 65 yards. So again, you got to credit Penn State too, right? I mean, they recruit, they got players, they practice, they watch film, and they did a heck of a job in crunch time. And Jeff Brom said it Thursday night, and I think he even said it again on Monday. They were playing man coverage on the Purdue receivers. And again, these are physical, talented Penn State defensive backs. They were able to lock up those Purdue receivers for the most part, and that allowed them to put an extra man in the box. They were daring Purdue to run the football, Alan. And it sounds like Jeff Brom did not want to take his chances trying to run into the teeth of a defense that was set up to try to stop the run. We're not talking about this if Payne Durham makes that catch, right? They were so close, still playing the style of football that's defined Jeff Brom, but obviously it didn't happen on this instance. And I still am, for people to think Purdue's going to reinvent itself during the course of the game and suddenly be able to play smash mouth Ohio State, Woody Hayes football is crazy. You have to play to your strengths. Passing the football has its risk without a doubt, but that's Purdue's identity. And I think we've seen Jeff Brom, even in that game Thursday, Alan, we saw him continue to think outside the box and try to look for ways to run the football creatively, with some of the receivers carrying the ball. And of course, Alan, at the goal line, a few times Purdue was using 6 offensive linemen. And there was one time too, when King Daru scored his second touchdown, they actually had 6 offensive linemen. Payne Durham in the game, and they even had Marcus Bowe, a guard, lined up in the backfield in motion to serve as a lead blocker. So they're doing all they can to try to supplement that ground game to make it effective, especially in short yardage.
Yeah, I had no real issue of, things work out the way they worked out, and it didn't work out to Purdue's advantage. It couldn't burn enough clock. That didn't help them. But I think you do what you do best, and you don't know what Aiden O'Connell's thinking when he's looking over. The fact of the matter is you've well documented, Payne Durham's catch is ruled a catch, which it apparently wasn't. That's a play if the pass to Sheffield, which was just a little bit underthrown. If you make that play, you're singing and dancing right now if you're Purdue, and there's the world's your oyster. So I'm with you on that. I think I do like what I saw out of Dylan Downing, actually, even in King Daru, just a little bit of that. It'll be interesting to see in a game like this week whether Kobe Lewis gets more of a look running the football, whether what you've talked about a lot in camp and thought you might see more of Tyrone Tracy getting obviously more touches than he did. That all those things are going to be things to watch for this week. That's the guy, Alan, Tyrone Tracy. That was maybe the most, at least one of the most perplexing revelations that really came out of Thursday night, was how little Tyrone Tracy was used. 1 carry for 9 yards, 1 catch for 8 yards, and he was targeted 4 times. And this was a guy, again, who had been here since the winter, went through spring football. Staff liked him a lot, went through camp, obviously, more praise. There was talk, Alan, of him, serving in a Debo Samuel role where he catches the ball and runs the ball. And from all observations, it looked like this guy was going to be one of the hubs of the offense. And that was not the case at all against Penn State. So, we'll see. I'm sure Jeff Brom's fully aware of it. I'm not sure what happened Thursday night, but maybe there were matchup issues they didn't like. But again, Tyrone Tracy, in my mind, has got to be a guy who's a big part of this offense, running it and catching it. I think if they really want to be as effective as they think they can be this year. Just 24 snaps for Tyrone Tracy, 2 on the offense. So again, one would think you'll see more of that, more of him, number 3, down the road. All right, Purdue playing the FCS, and the Boilermakers take on Indiana State this week. The Boilermakers are scheduled to play Indiana State in 2024, 2026, and then the Leathernecks of Western Illinois come back in 2028. I think that is the next 3 times that Purdue is going to take on the FCS. Your view on that? I mean, to me, at least, I guess I'll start. I say one thing about this week's game that might actually help Purdue is to get some reps in, maybe get a backup quarterback in, get some work done. What do you think about the fact that you're scheduling the FCS and playing somebody in state, Indiana State? That helps the state of Indiana football, I suppose. But how do you view it? I'm not a fan of these games, Alan. I don't think they should be on the schedule, and I'll be surprised if those future games take place. I don't want to get ahead based on what we may see in scheduling. Yeah, exactly right. I think you're going to see all the non-conference maybe get redrawn up, if you will, in a couple of years, but we'll see. Again, the only thing I like is the fact they are playing an in-state school. Yeah, and you can help out the Sycamores, which I think is great. It's better than playing Montana State or Eastern Washington or somebody like that. To me, that's really the only positive, I think. Again, yes, I know, Alan, every once in a while, these FBS schools or FCS schools, they do pull the upset. Now, the last 2 times a Big Ten team has lost to an FCS school is 2016. It happened twice that year. Iowa lost, I think it was to North Dakota State, and Northwestern, Allen, got beat by Brock Spack's Illinois State Redbirds.
So it's been a few years since a Big Ten team has gone down. Purdue has never lost to one of these schools. They're 12-0 all time. And the 1AA classification came into effect in 1978, and it was changed to FCS as far as what it's called, like 2006. So Purdue, like I said, has never lost one of these games. Now, Alan, the closest they've ever come to losing was back in 2013 against Indiana State. Purdue only won 20-14 that year. So the last game against one of these teams was 2016 against Eastern Kentucky. So it's been a while, and Jeff Brom never even played an FCS school his 3 years as the Western Kentucky coach. So I asked him about it Monday, and of course he takes everybody as serious as you think, and he understands that, yes, indeed, like I said, these FCS schools have been known to knock off FBS schools, and you never want to take anything for granted. But the fact Purdue's coming off a loss here, I think the coaching staff will have the players' undivided attention this week.
Indiana State has gone through some tragedy and some serious tragedy, and you wish them well on all of that front. Yes, that 2013 Indiana State game, if it had been under soccer rules, Tom, and they'd allowed 5 extra minutes, Darrell Hazel wouldn't have gotten that win, and that team would have gone because Indiana State had the ball and had a chance to beat Purdue on that day. Ricardo Allen, I believe, had a pick 6 that kind of saved Purdue, as I recall. I don't have a lot of memories of the Hazel era. I've tried to erase them all.
Good, Alan. That's good.
But I do think that that game was dangerously close, and really the only one. Western Illinois under Danny Hope came in and kept the game close in a 10-point game back in 2010, I believe it was.
Yeah,
and that, by the way, that season opener, just to run full circle, in 2006, that Dorian Bryant had the yards, was against Indiana State, and a 60-35 Purdue win. The game most known for Torrey Williams' catastrophic knee injury in that game, as I recall, was really a difficult, and the throwback uniforms Purdue wore to commemorate the Rose Bowl. Curtis Painter and company looked good. I like those uniforms back then.
Yeah. All
right, last, and I always love, you're always gracious to be put on the spot, and we are having fun with all this. This is not, we're not casting aspersions. The season's not over after you lose to Penn State. But how do you adjust Purdue's win total? This is a game, again, Purdue was a 4-point underdog. It lost by 4 points. So it pretty much was what it was. But, I know this is kind of our job to do this and have and look ahead. Any changes on that? I mean, it still comes down to how, in my view, well, I will say this, and I caught my attention, Syracuse's 31-7 win over Louisville could have ramifications for Purdue in a number of ways down the road, but the fact that the Orange came and won at home easily over Louisville will get Purdue's attention in 2 weeks. But you still looks like a bowl team and a team that could win 7-8 games by the time it's done, that being Purdue. Any adjustments to that based on week 1?
No, I mean, before the season started, about 10 days or so ago, I wrote a story where I picked every game, how I thought the outcome would be. And I had this game as being a loss. And I had Purdue's finishing 9-3. So my projection is still on the table, obviously. The losses in my mind are going to be at Wisconsin, at Minnesota, and at Wisconsin, at
Penn State, right?
And at Penn, the Penn State game. So those are the 3 I had as losses. So again, we'll see. Maybe Purdue can get a win at a place like Minnesota or Wisconsin. But again, the 3 losses I had were Penn State, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. So everything in my mind is still on the table for Purdue here. And yeah, like you said, that was definitely, I think, an attention getter. What Syracuse did to Louisville, 31-7 in the old Carrier Dome this last weekend. That game does look like it's going to be appreciably more tougher or more difficult than people anticipated. Penn State suffered a couple key injuries in that game. They lost a key linebacker and a key tight end. So they've already got their own level of I guess, disarray and to try to overcome. So again, that game could be a real big hurdle here. So Purdue, I'm sure, would like to gain some momentum against the Sycamores, empty the bench, feel good about yourself all next week when you get on the plane and head out east to go play the Orange.
All right, I have to ask you one other question because you're a seer of Big Ten football and have had relationships with lots of coaches over the years. But have you ever seen 7 points without a touchdown? I knew that score was 3-3, and then all of a sudden I said, "What, 7-3?" I guess it was since 2000 that's happened in college football. But
Really?
what about Iowa now? I mean, an interesting deal. I know that Kirk Ferentz and company find a way to get it done defensively, but boy, offensively, it's and I know that it's a while till Iowa comes to November 5th when they come to West Lafayette, but really strange. That was one of the stranger Big Ten opening week games.
I think, what was it, 10 years or so ago? I think they beat Penn State like 4-3 or 5-3.
Yeah.
Some strange. Iowa's just the epitome of winning ugly, right? They find a way, though. I tip my hat. They find a way. And Alan, if you're going to be only good in two phases of the game, defense and special teams are the phases, I guess, you want to be good at, right?
Yeah.
As long as you're good at defense and special teams, you're going to be in most every game. Then it's going to come down to if your offense can finally ever wake up and just make a few plays. So a lot of consternation in Iowa City, a lot of hand wringing over that offensive performance. Not a lot of love for their quarterback, Spencer Petras, of course. Again, just game one of the season, right? Who knows how much the playbook they were using. I don't want to be an Iowa apologist, but you kind of look for reasons why they were so inept on that side of the ball. They certainly could use Charlie Jones and Tyrone Tracy. And this week, Alan, they get to play their rival, Iowa State. So,
which is always a pitcher's duel. That game always seems to be a 12-10 job.
The Cyhawks. So we'll see. We'll get a lot clearer idea of maybe if that offense is as inept as we think, or if it does have some signs of life, because as you know, Matt Campbell and the Cyclones are a pretty stout program. So that'll be one of the more fun games of the second weekend of the season.
Yeah, Purdue, I think the last time Purdue had two safeties in the game, Len Dawson was the quarterback, I think in the mid-50s against Indiana, 6-4 special. I don't know if it was weather related or what happened, but it doesn't happen very often is my point.
I just wonder when Purdue last won a game by scoring only single digits.
Purdue last won a game when scoring only single digits. I'm repeating the question.
Alan, I think I got it in my own head. Was it the 96 Michigan game?
9-3. Yeah.
That may have been it.
I'm thinking you may be right. Well, and I know in Illinois in '87 with Fred Akers' first win was a 9-3 type game as well in the rain. But that's I think you're on to something there. Rare. I don't think we're going to see very many of those this year.
No, not in this era of offense, especially with the way Purdue plays ball now too. So again, it's going to be interesting to see again. How Purdue comes out. If they are sharp and if they are focused, and Alan, if they're taking care of business. Boy, the last thing you want to do is lollygag and let the Sycamores stay in this game into the fourth quarter. You'd like for this thing to become a little bit of a laugher where you can clear the bench, let about everybody play, and just be able to coast through the final 15 minutes or so. So we'll see. Indiana State had to go overtime to beat North Alabama. I'm not sure how good North Alabama is. This Indiana State team, Alan, coached by Kurt Mallory, one of Bill Mallory's sons, and they are very much like the old Bill Mallory Indiana teams. They want to try to run to beat you. So again, that's sort of their MO on offense. They didn't play with their best receiver last week. He will be back. So obviously it's an uphill climb for the Sycamores. But again, if you're Purdue, Allen, you certainly would like to put your foot on the neck of these guys, put them away early, and make this an easy afternoon.
All right, we'll have a whole new list of buy-sell opportunities next week as we retake a look. And you're gonna. And by the way, will this be your first trip ever to the Carrier? I think I've asked this before.
Yeah.
The Dome. Have you ever been to Syracuse before?
That's one of the few. Syracuse and Stanford are the only two, I think, FBS schools for football that I've never been to. So yeah, not even to their campus. So yeah. This will be my first trip to upstate New York, and Alan, I'm just hoping it goes out without a glitch.
Yeah, you got a couple connections. You may be back a week from Tuesday.
I may get stuck. Yeah, I may get stuck, and I may be doing this from Elmira, New York next week.
My only trip to the Carrier Dome was for basketball. Leo Routens And Jim Boeheim was a young head coach way back in 1981 when they beat Gene Katie's second basketball team relatively.
Well, Alan, too, I think.
No, actually, I was there in 87 also.
Yeah, because that's when they played that NCAA tournament with Dwayne Schintz.
Right, and Purdue beat Northeastern and then lost to Florida, and the M&M boys got the best of Gene Katie's team that won a share of the Big Ten title. All right, Tom, I appreciate your time. Always appreciate your expertise. Always a little bit of fun to do this. When it comes to land sales, don't forget about Acre Pro Midwest Farm Group. Visit acrepro.com or call 765-587-3185 and talk to your local farm agent or local land expert, I should say, today. And we appreciate Kyle Spray and the group that all they do for us as a new sponsor. All right, have a great week, and we'll be chatting again soon. We'll look forward to more Purdue football talk as the week progresses.